Do you like testimonies of overcoming? Saved and Strong shares stories of people who have overcome struggles to find strength. Each episode inspires resilience, hope, and faith, reminding listeners they're not alone. This is Carrie Watts with the Saved and Strong podcast. Today, I'm with one of my author friends, April Timms. April, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for inviting me and allowing me to be a part of this.
Yes, it's so exciting to help my other author friends to release and share their creativities in their books. And so I met April at the Mississippi Book Festival, which was back in September of 2025. And so we finally got an opportunity to schedule a call. I want to tell you more about her. April is a dedicated professional and community leader. She's a member of Lake City, Arkansas, with her husband of 22 years, Anthony Timms, and they have 3 children. Anthony serves as a General Baptist youth pastor, and together they have been actively involved in youth ministry for over 2 decades. Their shared passion for helping others extends beyond ministerial work, and they co-own a small group counseling practice. It's called A Time for Peace Incorporated. As a licensed professional counselor and advanced drug and alcohol counselor, she specializes in treating trauma and addiction disorders. She has a website, www.doveauthor.com, and her Facebook page is Soiled Dove, Dove Series, and she has an Instagram page called Dove Book Series. Her author email is dove.series.author@gmail.com, and I'm going to have all this in the show notes. So, April, tell us more about your latest book that was released.
The most recent one is Freed Dove. It's the second in the Dove series. The first one is Soiled Dove. So Freed Dove follows another character that's introduced in the first book, Sakari. She has found freedom from captivity, and she is on a journey back home. And so her journey is just wrought with conflict, and it's a struggle to make it back home and to find a new place where she belongs. The second book is kind of inspired by the Zach Williams and Dolly Parton song, where I couldn't see it then, but I can see it now, where it follows how God's divine intervention throughout her whole story chapter has a name of God, like God the provider, God that sees me, God's my banner. And so it shows each way that God interacts in her life story, and then toward the end she can see it all. It's not something she can see in the moment. So yeah. It's pretty cool.
So when I met April and we introduced ourselves at the book festival, we realized that both of our books had the element of human trafficking in it. And her books are set in earlier times. Tell us about the setting of your book and how you decided to write what you wrote.
So the setting is in early 1900s. It starts in 1909. The first book is basically the dream that I had. And at the end of my dream, there was a notice on the door that said prostitution was outlawed in 1910. And when I woke up, I was just I was like, this would be such a good book or a good movie. This was such a good story. It was so empowering. And I thought, I wonder when prostitution really was outlawed. I started Googling it, and the Man's Act of 1910 came up. And the more that I read about the events in American history at that time surrounding prostitution, and the more the events in my dream were historically accurate. So it was I dreamed 100 years ago. So I was telling my husband about it. He was like, well, maybe you should put it into a book. Maybe God gave you that dream for a reason. And so the more I dove into the story, the more I saw the overarching theme of salvation in it as well. We are a slave to sin, and we can only be rescued from that through the salvation of Jesus. And so, like, you see these characters as they build also the reflection of God and God's story through their characters. And so it was pretty neat. And each time I think about it and read on it and things like that, I get something new. So
Mm,
it's pretty cool.
yeah.
Some of the things I wrote, I didn't even recognize what I was writing until afterwards when I stopped writing. I'm like, "Oh, that's good."
Mhm. Yeah. I love it when the calling comes before the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then God just gives us little nuggets of golden wisdom along the way. It's really such a great partnership to be a Christian author and working for the Lord, and just his reward is not of this earth. That is for sure. It is a sweet relationship, no doubt. So tell me then how your sequel came about.
Well, I didn't really plan on writing a sequel. The plan was just to write down um, the dream. But then as I finished the story, I thought, well, what happened to the other girls? Because there was three altogether in this traveling brothel. And so as I began thinking about, like, I wonder what would have happened to Sakari. Like, I got this whole new theme of, with us each step of the way. So I just began to write about her. And I the third book in the sequel, I thought about titling it The Lost Dove and following Florence, who is the third lady in the brothel. But I really don't know what's going to happen to Florence, and it seems like it might be a tragedy, and I'm not really kind of a sucker for happy endings, so, like, I haven't really wanted to dive into her character just yet because I just feel like it's not gonna turn out well for her, but I'm still praying on that one.
Yes, and what I want our listener to hear is if the listener is thinking about a creative endeavor, I want you to hear April's voice. She is a busy wife, busy mom. She's got a counseling practice, and now she's writing books and she's enjoying these creative thoughts. And we really don't know our characters until we start writing about it and they develop a personality of their own, really a life of their own. It is, it's so exciting, isn't it? It's so good.
Mhm.
So, what advice would you give to the woman who's thinking about maybe one day I'll write? What would you tell her?
I would tell her that if she has a story in her mind that just kind of replays, then she probably needs to put it on paper. I think about the Bible and all the stories that we have from them, and we wouldn't have gotten that if somebody wasn't obedient in writing it down for the next generation. And so, if God's given you a message to write down, you should write it down.
Yeah, great. So, where can we find your books?
I am on Amazon. I'm on Barnes and Noble, and for the retailers out there, I'm on Ingram Spark. So you can order my books directly from my website, or you can go to those individual sites as well.
Great, great. So tell me more about how you became a woman of faith. Tell us a little bit about your faith journey.
Well, I grew up in a household where we didn't really go to church. I was invited to church from some friends, some neighbors, and rode the church van. Being part of that children's church, I heard the gospel story and I decided that, I needed Jesus as my savior as well. So I was about 12 years old when I accepted Christ with my children's church leader. I was baptized into that church. And then there was a moment in time where my parents split up and I kind of got out of church for a while. We'd moved around a little bit. Even though I was saved at 12, my relationship with the Lord, where it felt like individual, when I was 12, I knew that there was a heaven and there was a God, and I wanted to go there one day. But when I was in college, my first year of college is when I really experienced, like, oh, I can have a personal relationship with him right now here on earth. And so he really made himself known to me in that early years of college. And then it wasn't very much longer than that. I met my husband at a church thing, and it's just been following the Lord since.
Was there a pivotal moment that caused you to sink a little deeper in your faith than another?
The first year of college, I was pretty much alone, like, for the first time ever. Like, most of my friends had moved off. Some had joined the military, some went to other schools. My parents had remarried other people, and I was just kind of, like, on my own that freshman year of college. There was a gentleman that I had met, and he asked to sit down and eat with me one day. He was an older gentleman, and just seemed to be everywhere that I was. I'd come out of class, he was there. I'd be walking across campus, he was there, and he was just kind of out of place, but he was just a really kind soul, you know? And I had met my first friend on campus. It was about midway through the semester. I started at the Baptist Collegiate Ministries, and I met my first friend, Jennifer. And I was telling her about this gentleman who just seemed to be everywhere I needed somebody to be, like I just needed somebody to talk to. Bam, he was there. And I said, it almost feels like he is like my guardian angel. And so we laughed about it a little bit, and we were going to this dinner. It was like a banquet. And so Jennifer and I rode together. We went to this banquet, and there he was. And I said, there's the guy that I was telling you that I just feel like he's watching out for me. And so I teased him a little bit, and I said, are you our chaperone for the night? Because he was just an older gentleman, and he just, didn't seem like he belonged in the college campus. And he said, no, more like your guardian angel. And then I never saw him again, ever. I had saw him every single day up until that point that I made a friend, and then he told me he was my guardian angel, and then he was just gone. And I was just like, wow, God sent somebody. And it was almost immediately after that, I had a Bible study where it was Hebrews, don't forget to entertain strangers, for some have entertained angels unaware of it. And that just made me realize that God is paying attention to me. Like, I'm important enough for him to send somebody to give me company while I'm alone until I met a friend and I no longer needed it. And so that just opened my eyes that we live in a spiritual world, and God is here with us now, and so that was pretty cool.
That's a beautiful story. So tell me more about, as a busy mom, author, counselor, how does your day-to-day faith play out now?
Well, I start every morning with a Bible study, pray for the day. I pray for my patients, pray for my kiddos. And so I go to work, do the helping other people. Then I come home, and
Wait, hold that thought. Sorry, I have a dog.
I just try to invite the Lord into my day with prayer every day. I heard on a Caleb one day, somebody was talking about having ears to listen and the words to say and the wisdom to know when to use them. And so that's a prayer I pray pretty frequently, that God would just give me ears to listen and words to say and wisdom to know when to use them. Somebody had called in and was talking on Caleb about how the prayers that they use to start their day. It was give me ears to hear and words to say and the wisdom to know when to use them. Sometimes we are using our words when we should be using our ears.
Yes, I've heard that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen twice as much as we talk, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have heard that, and God has been so good over the years to help train me to know when to listen and when to talk, and sometimes I still get it wrong.
Yeah.
But I
Me
think
too.
writing helps me with that. I get to pray my words out before I
Yes.
talk to anybody during the day, which is so good, and I used to get that all wrong.
Yeah.
Is there a verse that you sort of live your life by, or a motto in your daily life?
Romans 8:28, that all things work for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And that helps me to know that even in the struggles and the traumas and the good times, everything's going to work out for my benefit somehow.
Mhm. I love Romans 8. I read it this morning. Love it. Absolutely. So tell me about your community. Do you have a community that you have fellowship with? I know y'all are part of a church and your husband's a youth pastor. How does community look in your faith life?
Yes, we are really active in church. And our best friends go to church with us. So we do things outside of church. We go out to eat, we do game nights, that just really helps us to feel plugged in. So we really, really enjoy spending time with friends.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about how you decided to become a counselor and how the wisdom and the knowledge and the education that you have as a counselor, how that plays into your writing.
So I originally didn't think I was going to be a counselor. My goal was to open a children's home. Um, and but after I graduated with my bachelor's, a job opened up in mental health as a case manager, and I really enjoyed working with people with mental health issues. So I did case management for a few years, and then a colleague encouraged me to get my master's, so I did that, and then God just opened so many doors for me to be able to work in the field that I am and to do trauma treatment. And so I really enjoy helping people work through their history of trauma. It's something that I've done on my own. I tell every person that sits in my couch that I'm not asking you to do anything that I haven't already done. And so I like to be able to use my life experiences to help somebody else. So how that plays into my writing, you'll see mental health throughout both of my books. Clara's dad struggles with depression. Clara and Sakari both have post-traumatic stress disorder. And so, I kind of put some of those symptoms into that writing and some of the coping skills that I try to teach my patients. You'll see some of the characters using those skills as well. You'll see some drug and alcohol. Well, just really drug. Opioid addiction was really big at the turn of the century. Same it is now. History repeats itself. And so one of my characters, two of my characters actually, struggle with opioid addictions.
So do you feel like it is a helpful guide for some of these girls that read it as well as a story for them to enjoy?
I hope so.
Yeah. I feel that way about my book as well. I feel like I want to give them a little something that'll give them some hope that, hey, if those characters can heal, I can too, right?
Yes.
And yeah, I think that's so good. So, who is your ideal reader?
The ideal reader, I want to say, would be anybody that wants to understand trauma, human trafficking and abuse, and it can, bring about compassion and understanding for those individuals that have experienced that, but also those who've been in any kind of abusive situation, whether it be human trafficking or child abuse or domestic violence. It just lets them know they're not alone, and that there is hope and healing, and God is present through it all.
Yeah. Well, January is the month of human trafficking awareness. So I think this is
I did know.
awesome that, yeah, this is good that this is going to come out and I can promote your book. I
Yes.
think that awareness starts through stories and people are more drawn in to a story than they would be just reading the news or, seeing, a post by, in Mississippi, we have the Mississippians Against Human Trafficking and the
Hmm.
Mississippians for Violence Protection. And they have a great presence in our state. But I think for the nation at large, the world at large, I think a story is a great way to introduce, especially if you have parents reading the story alongside with their children, then those questions can be answered. And it's a little more comfortable to bring it up if you're reading a story about it than
Yes.
just, hey, maybe you should be aware of this, right?
Right.
So, have you been on any speaking circuits or been able to use your book in any other like group therapy or small group setting?
Some of my patients have read it, and so that's they've been able to connect to the characters and bring some of the insight back to the therapy counseling clinic. But as far as speaking engagements, no, this is like the first podcast I've done, so that's exciting to be able to share this with more people than just my little Facebook site or wherever it goes. I've done a couple book signings, so that's been fun and really good to be able to talk to the readers and explain, where this story came from, and so that was good.
Yeah, well, I'm honored that you're here with me for the first podcast. I hope that you have many more ahead of you. And it sounds like a story that many people need to get in, it needs to get into their hands. And if there's a busy mom listening, how do you balance your day? Do you have an organized schedule or do you just write in the cracks and chunks of time?
Well, my first book, it was a little bit more consistent writing. I had a writing time every day. My husband loves baths. And so after work, and that's one of the things he does, takes an hour bath. And so that was my time to write. And then this last year, writing the second book, I just kind of got out of routine. So it took me a lot longer to write the second book than it took me to write the first book because I was not as structured. But I would definitely encourage them to find a quiet time once a day to just spend time writing, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is.
Yeah, I have a friend who writes on her calendar each day how many words she wrote that day. And
Okay.
that keeps her motivated, and this year alone, like, she's already written 16,000 words or whatever, that's like 1,000 words a day, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, for some time, are you a early morning, early riser, or are you a night owl?
Um, Either really. I get up about 6:30 or 7 and get my son off to school. And then I'm in bed by 10 or 11. I like my sleep.
So, do you drink coffee or tea, or do you have another drink that you like to drink while you're writing?
Neither.
No? No soda, just water?
Yeah, well, I like my Dr. Pepper. Occasionally I drink coffee, but most of the time it's Diet Dr. Pepper, water. But yeah, I just curl up in my bed, honestly, the majority of my writing has been done on my phone.
Really? Tell me more about that.
I work on Google Docs, so that way I can pull it up on my desktop or my phone. And so in my bed, it's just a little more convenient for me to hold my phone than to get my laptop. And so I'll just type on my phone like I'm texting somebody, and then I'll pull it up on my desktop and look for errors. But usually, instead of playing on a game or zoning out on Facebook or whatever, if I've got a free moment in a doctor's office or whatever, I'll just pull up my Google Docs and start writing.
It's great. Do you ever use voice memo?
No, because I think I'm just in Arkansas. I don't know what they call it, Mississippi, but we call it cornbread down here. So I think I'm a little too more cornbread for my Google Docs to recognize my voice because it's always typing something that is not what I'm saying.
Yes, I get that. It doesn't recognize Southern drawl. That's not a language.
No,
They have not
no, it
taught them that
doesn't.
language yet.
I know.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So your bed on your phone. Every author is different. I haven't met anybody that writes more on their phone. I'm older, and so my eyes get so weary if I'm on my phone too long. So I have to write on my computer. But
Mhm.
I am a Google Doc girl as well, absolutely, no doubt, and it just makes it easier when you return it to an editor or, like you say, Ingram Spark, it transfers much
Yes.
easier. Do you feel like it's worth writing a book? I mean, most
Yeah.
Christian authors aren't writing a book to make a lot of money. Hopefully one day our books will make a lot of money and be a movie, but until then, how do you weigh the risk versus the reward on taking time out from family or work to write your book? Do you feel like it's been worth it? If there's a listener out there that's like, I just don't know that I have time, but I really have this book I want to write, how would you encourage them?
Well, I would say it is an act of obedience. And I learned a long time ago that if God puts something on my heart to do, and if I don't do it, somebody else will. We had a church camp thing where I used to do this song and motions thing with our church where we would kind of put a skit together to music. And there was this skit that was playing over in my head, like just over and over and over. And I told my husband, I said, I think that we should put this together for church camp. I really feel like this is what we're supposed to do. And he was like, no, we don't have time. We don't have enough people. It's too close, da 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 da. And so we didn't do it. But when we got to church camp, now, mind you, this was an original skit in my head, never seen it anywhere. When we got to church camp, another church did it. And I said, "That was the skit. This is what was in my head that you said I shouldn't do." And he was like, "Well, maybe that's because they were gonna do it." And I was like, "No, it's because I didn't do it." And so I feel like if there is a story that God has given you that you should write down and you don't write it down, he's going to give it to somebody else. And that feeling of being disobedient, knowing that God gave me this to do and say and I didn't say it and somebody else did. Man, that feeling is not a good feeling, But I'm glad that God gets his message out there with or without us. But I always want to be the one to be obedient to it.
Yes. And there is so much blessing in obedience, small and large, and it's usually more of a personal, fulfilled reward, you know, not necessarily a big house or a new car, but it's
Right.
just knowing that God, he's such a good daddy. He
Yeah.
is such a good daddy. And there's grace for when we don't immediately obey, but the reward for obedience is so good. I've read through the Bible 9 times, and I know just reading through the Bible, when the Israelites were obedient, they received the reward, and they were and they
Mhm.
weren't, they didn't. And so, I've shared that with my family, especially my children. I have 3 boys, and I've shared that with them over and over and over. Very much what you just said is, God invites us to work alongside him.
Mhm.
He doesn't require us to do anything, but what a sweet relationship it is when we do. I like what you shared because it is so true, and it doesn't seem like work when we're working for.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're writing in the middle of the hard. You're writing
Yeah.
in the middle of raising children and work, and so I know that is not easy, and, I'm sure you've lost a lot of sleep over it.
Well, my kids are nearly grown now, so that makes it a lot easier to find that time in the evening to write. I don't know that I would have had this amount of time to write if I had started when they were little.
Yes. Yeah. I see the little piglet behind you. Are you in your office?
I am. Yeah, I've got the whole Winnie the Pooh crew because they all represent different emotions.
Love that. I love what you're doing. I love your mission to write and get the word out about human trafficking and recovering from depression, alcohol, drug addiction, and PTSD. That is very much my passion as well. So I feel like we're kindred
Yeah,
sisters in a way, And I'm glad that the Lord has called us to be on this road of authorship together at this time, at such a time as this. It's so important. Is there
yes.
anything else that you would like to say to encourage our listener as far as, just whatever it is, being a wife of a pastor, a mom of growing kids, an author or a counselor? You have so much wisdom to give. We'd love to hear it.
That's a weighted question. I would just say to find your voice. There's so many people that don't feel like they have a voice in their home, as a parent, in the world. And writing gives us a voice. Whether or not a whole lot of people read it or not, it still gives us a sense of empowerment, I think.
Mhm. Yes. My word last year was power because I just felt so much power of the Holy Spirit as I was writing my first book. And my word this year is truth because I want to share the truth and I want people to hear the truth. I feel like there's so many lies out in the world right now for people to listen to and possibly believe the lie. And we don't want them to believe the lie, right? When I taught my kids
Right.
how to spell believe, Believe, don't believe the lie. Lies in believe. So
Yeah.
we want them to believe the truth. So I thank you for sharing that. And you've been an inspiration to me. I know you've been an inspiration to our listeners today. Thank you for being here. I want to thank our listener for being here for the full 30 minutes. And we hope that you will share this podcast and take action on whatever it is that the Lord is asking you to do and whatever He has laid on your heart. Because as April said, you have a voice.
And I did want to add that 10% of my book proceeds go toward Faith Alliance Against Slavery and Trafficking, to try to do more good in this area.
Yes. Well, I know I will be praying for your book and its sales, and we wanna make an impact wherever we are. So, yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Thank you for being here, and I hope that you have a blessed day.
Okay, you too.